in trying to sort of make sense of this tragedy, I was just been very, very struck, really, from the first minute that it happened, that there were countless warnings, including from people at this table, that something like this could happen. That despite what we've heard from City Hall, the schools are not safe. And in that regard, you brought to my attention that even after the stabbing last week, another weapon was found in the classroom.
Yes, Errol. Even after the stabbing, after the police had gone and the cleanup was being done, this weapon was found in the back of the classroom by a school official. This is disturbing because the theory would be that a child, dropped this one after what happened with his classmate or her classmate.
That it could even have continued.
It could have continued, or this could have been used at another time.
You've been saying for a number of years that one thing that I guess some people might take issue with, one thing that I think nobody should take issue with. The thing that you've said that's a little controversial is that, well, we should have scanners in all of the schools. Some people say, well, that's not great. There's some schools where it's not necessary. It sort of makes people feel bad. It sends a wrong message to certain children. The one thing that nobody should disagree with, though, is that your folks have been sounding the warning that they're catching more and more weapons at the front door. What has been going on?
Well, they catch weapons at the door because they notice a change in the students' behavior, and sometimes the students go to their classmates and they brag about the weapons that they're bringing in, and behind their back, the classmate goes to and tells a school official, and we have been lucky in that sense. But this time, we were not lucky.
Wow.
And the knife was brought in, the knife was used, and 3 lives are ruined. The child who committed the murder, the one who was almost killed, and the unfortunate death of this child. So I would think we would learn from that, but there's still the pushback and metal detectors coming into the schools. And I think if you just really do an assessment and evaluation, if you find a weapon in the school, the very next day you should have a metal detector there for at least a year to see what's coming in the schools.
Okay, that's a very, very tough standard. Now, Jeremiah Kittredge, your group put out its own report about whether or not the city has been forthcoming about statistics on violence in the schools, and your group also is working with parents who have sued the school system.
Yeah, so I mean, we did a bunch of looking at the state of school safety and violence in the schools, and I think there's no doubt that 2 data points are worth mentioning here. One is that in the last 3 years, the rate of weapons being found in schools has gone up 27%. And then second, something that I think stands out in this particular instance at this particular school is that some number of years ago, 94% of teachers reported feeling safe in the classroom. That number is down to 19% now. So at the macro level across the city and at this school in particular, we have real concerns, in partnership with families about the lack of safety. And that's what brought us, as we talked to parent after parent and mom and dad after mom and dad, to join them in a litigation to try to change the way the city investigates bullying. We joined 13 parents who all have examples and stories of children who have been bullied, often very violently. One was thrown downstairs for some number of years. And those incidents have gone uninvestigated or underfound. And
what relief are you asking the court for?
Yeah, 4 things. We would like there to be a formal investigation process that has to be reported on. We would like there to be the opportunity for a child to transfer from a school if they have had an instance of bullying for some amount of time. We'd like there to be a report card or some kind of actual dissemination of findings about bullying in the school. And we'd like there to be a standardized reporting process for parents as they try to file complaints about bullying. It's extremely challenging for a mom or dad in the city school system right now to even tell their school that there have been incidents of bullying. We're worried about this because it leaves thousands of kids unsafe every day. And what happened tragically, this past week is the worst example of that.
Okay, now, Bernard, well, you have more experience running a school than anybody here at the table. How should we be framing this? How should we be thinking about this? I have to confess that I get a little antsy when I hear people go straight to, we need more training on tolerance and LGBT, and we need more focus on bullying, because some of these problems long predate the current national discussion about bullying, right?
Right, absolutely. I mean, bullying has been happening in schools, and schools have been open, been started in this country. I think part of the challenge with what's going on now in New York City and probably other places is that the mayor and probably the chancellor are not being truthful in terms of being transparent about what the problems are. And one of the things, from my vantage point as a former school principal and a superintendent, is that there's a tremendous amount of pressure placed on principals to probably underreport. Right? Because if they report all the incidents that occur in their school, then they're going to be labeled. Some of them who are not tenured may not get tenure. So and that becomes important to them. So, because some people put their, I've always argued that a principal, or anybody for that matter, should never put their job security over the security of children. And unfortunately, that happens as a result of the reality of being pressured. And particularly when under mayoral control, now it's important for the mayor to put forth an image that everything is fine. There is absolutely, in my opinion, no correlation between low suspension and high safety in a school.
Well, so now, there is a concern that I assume everybody here shares, that you don't want to create or further a school-to-prison pipeline, right? And so that was the rationale under which they said, let's go a little bit easier on the hard sanctions, like expulsion or arrest, and use more restorative justice, conversations, different kind of solutions.
But I'm of the opinion that I don't necessarily agree that we need more scanning. If we're going to additional scanning, you're going to have additional safety officers, because having metal detectors alone gives the children and the staff a false sense of security. Because when you have scanning at your school, you have the majority of officers on that day in the morning, they're at the doors where the students are coming in, but nobody's available to guard the other 20 or so exits that's preventing students from coming in. So weapons can still come in. It's more about working on the whole child holistically, and it's about establishing relationships, so that if a child is aware of something, they'll come to you and say, this student has X, Y, and Z.
And then, of course, the Eagle Academy. You go into some of the toughest neighborhoods. You've had your all-boys academy are you in all 5 boroughs now?
All 5 boroughs,
and
Newark as well.
And nothing remotely like this has happened at your schools, right?
Well, thank God that it hasn't, right? But we're dealing with all the same children that all the other schools are dealing with as well.
Right, these are public schools, right?
Regular public schools. We're in the toughest neighborhoods in the city. I was a New York City school principal myself for 11 years. And so I was there. In fact, I was a school safety officer years ago.
How about that?
Earl, and so, but what I do know is that children who don't feel safe are children who bring weapons to school. And whether they feel a threat within the school, or they feel that threat in the neighborhoods, coming to school, going home, this sense that I've got to do something to protect myself. What was particularly egregious in this case, I think, in the Bronx, was this young man was screaming out, because all the other young people that they interviewed, everybody said he had been bullied. So it said to me, the adults knew this and were aware, and it didn't seem like anybody really stepped up in a way that they needed to make sure that they protected this young man. But all across New York City, it really is about how do you build relationships so young people feel safe, they feel somebody that they can turn to without having to say the only way that I can resolve this is to bring a weapon to school and then hurt somebody. That's certainly not the way we want to see it play out.
What should the city be doing now? I mean, what I heard this morning sounded like more of the same. I didn't hear anything announced that would sort of take us in a different direction. What's the right way to go, do you think?
Well, I think the city should be listening to the students, the children. When they said they're not feeling safe, they're being bullied, I think those issues should be taken seriously. It shouldn't be just ignored and swept under the rug. Like David said, obviously the young man was being bullied because all of his classmates agreed. So unfortunately, he made, in our opinion, the wrong decision, but he made a decision to bring the attention to what was going on. He would have still been bullied today, right now, if he didn't do this, unfortunately. But why didn't somebody come to his defense? Why didn't somebody